But is that stopping you from experiencing life? Are you just existing because you're living in that fear response? You're living in that fear space. Is there a way to talk to yourself, to create protection, to maybe have someone join you in situations while you are learning to feel more safe? But being still and being frozen for a long time is existing. It's not living.
Hi, welcome to Simply 1%. I'm Wendolyn Pascal, a life development coach who helps people better understand themselves and others through the framework of motivational gifts. And my co-host is Meredith Richards, a licensed marriage and family therapist and communication coach. We're just two people who don't have life completely figured out. What we have gained is perspective along the way through giving ourselves grace and extending that grace to others. We're here to encourage those 1% shifts that over time can lead to meaningful transformation. Maybe that's through asking better questions. Maybe that's laughing at ourselves when we need to. Maybe that's taking ownership or simply seeing things through a different lens. That journey looks different for everyone, but we're here for it. So grab your cup of coffee, fold your laundry, go for your walk, or let us be your passenger on your way to work, and get ready for what feels like a free therapy session in every episode. And one more thing, if you're listening to us on one of our other platforms, we would love for you to join us on YouTube. That's where we're putting most of our energy these days. And if you like the conversation that you hear today, hit subscribe and come hang out. All right, let's get into this simply 1% at a time.
Welcome back to Simply 1%. So, Wendell and I have talked about this subject many times, and I just want to make it very clear today. We are going to be talking about anxiety, and I want to say this. Everyone has anxiety. We all need it. It serves a purpose. For those of you who struggle with anxiety, we're going to talk about what it is and what it isn't, how it serves a purpose in your life, and if it's one of those things that you feel like you just need control over, we're going to talk about that as well. So we're glad you're here. Let's get into it.
Yeah, anxiety has a role. It has a role. I think that we are just obsessed with this idea of if I have anxiety, it's immediately negative.
You may have had different moments in your life where you learned to have fear or worry, which is under the umbrella of anxiety, because we're supposed to, again, have fear. We need fear, and we do need a little bit of concern. That is how we prepare ourselves for certain situations. Again, Meredith does not have any anxiety, which is a problem. Fortunately, I have learned that I have to prepare myself better for situations, and I have to recognize that I could get into something and my head is a little bit more on a swivel. It's conscious for me though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some people it's built in. You might be a person where it's built in or a little bit higher because of the situations you've gone through in your life. Everyone has a different level of which they feel comfortable moving through anxiety or parts of what anxiety is. Today, we're going to talk about the basics of it and the purpose it serves, because I think it's important just to start there.
Yeah, you do need a little bit more anxiety, Meredith. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have to tell you not to be sex trafficked. I have to tell you this all the time when you're traveling. I'm like, please, can we not be sex trafficked today? I have to. I have the anxiety for both you and I carry it for both of us.
I know. And it's just such a burden. I feel bad about that. That's why I didn't tell you last night that I walked home by myself through Central Park.
I have felt it. That's why I told you the other night, can you please text me when you get home? I mean, she's just raw dogging it everywhere she goes. And I have to be the one to be like, can you just think about this? Can you think about this, please? I like watching crime documentaries when I'm with you because I'm like, maybe something will stick.
Maybe this will be it.
You just never know.
I was very aware of everything that was going on around me, though, I have to say. I was.
Good. As you
You've
should
taught
be.
you've taught me well.
Yeah, listen, my daughter is not about to go out in public without being like, head on a swivel. There's a reason why when Meredith asked that child, if you found a bag of money in that drawer at the hotel room, what would you do with it? She's like, nothing, because it could be laced with drugs. Listen, that girl is not going to be tricked because mama has taught her, don't be dumb.
Yeah, yeah.
Head on a swivel.
There are a couple different instances in my life, though, where I have my, you know, I've had a little bit more of an anxiety meter, and that
Hmm.
was during COVID. I was very careful. I wouldn't even like touch an Amazon package for a little bit. Like I kept it outside or I would wipe them down because I didn't
At the
understand it
beginning of COVID.
at
Yeah,
the
because we didn't
beginning.
understand it. Yeah, at the
We
very
didn't
beginning. Yeah.
understand it. I'm like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and when the twins were born and with the
Mm.
stuff with the twins, and it does heighten when you're around children
Yes, as it
as
should.
as it should, because that's the
As it
purpose
should.
it serves, right? Why do parents, especially mothers, not sleep that well after you have children?
Hmm.
Because we are their anxiety. We are their safety meter.
Yes.
We're supposed to not be completely like relaxed.
Right.
You aren't. Like you have to be on heightened awareness. So let's talk about it like that. It's not really anxiety, right? It is, but the purpose it serves is for awareness.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I don't know a mother, Gwendolyn, who hasn't said to me, my anxiety grew when I had a child.
uh, listen, even irrational anxiety you have, or the intrusive thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I mean, even when my son was like 9 and 10 years old and he got to the point where he was such a big kid. I mean, he's 11 and he's like 5'11" now, wears a size 13 shoe. So like, I'm like, yeah, you need to go into the men's restroom. Okay. Like people think some 18-year-old kid is standing in the women's restroom. So you do need to go in the restroom.
Yeah.
When he was 9 and 10, what did I do?
Yeah.
I stood outside that restroom. I said, all right. And I said it really loud so everybody in that men's restroom could hear me. And if it wasn't a restroom that like you just walk in, there was a door, I'd open that door. I'd say, you got 1 minute to pee and to come out. If you're not out in 1 minute, I'm coming in. And if someone touches you or does anything inappropriate to you, I'm coming in. And then I said some other words as to what I would do to them. I've had men come out of those restrooms and look at me like, dear God, she's crazy. Listen to me. That is my job to protect them. And then there were men
Yeah.
who come out and said, well done. I'm like, and there it is. And I
Yes.
curtsied.
Yes.
And that's what you have
Yes.
to
Yes.
do. So
Yeah.
there is that anxiety where, I want to protect the things that are the most valuable to me. And that is my children.
Yes. And the way that it shows up in men, like you just said, when the men said, well done, because men are biologically made to be protectors,
Yes.
right? So there is a degree of anxiety and safety. It just works differently in their bodies as it does with us. And it's supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's supposed to be a balance of what each one of us is paying attention to. Now, if you're
Yeah.
alone with your children and, obviously something changes and it heightens. And now I have to look for both of these things, right?
Yeah.
I also we also do it with our animals. You also do it with your animals. Like you're really careful about who your animal is around. You warn people, like, well, just wait for the dog to come to you, asking permission, like, can I pet your dog? There are reasons why these sort of customary things, it's not just about being polite. A lot of what we're told in life about like manners, maybe, I don't know if that's the correct word. It's really for our safety.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I just think
It
of dogs and
does.
how you talk about it and like the safety around that and asking
Mm-hmm.
permission, or even now there's more discussion about a child. Like, just don't expect just to like hug a child, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
always say, do you want a high five, a fist pump, or a hug? And if you don't want any of them, they're like, and I'm like, okay, my feelings aren't
Yeah.
hurt,
Yeah.
right? And now let me just tell you, these are kids that I know.
She don't walk
Yeah.
around to random
I'm
children
not
in the
walking around
park.
randomly. I feel like I need to say that because people know I'm a little unhinged. Like
Well,
just walking around like, you know, you look like you need a hug, like Elf. Like
right.
does someone need a hug? That's not me. Anyway.
No. No, I think anxiety, this is the thing. There's a difference between, like, I struggle with anxiety. We both know this. So there's
Mhm.
different parts to it. There's this anxiety that I have these intrusive thoughts that I have to really regulate. And I have to say, Wendolyn, is this affecting your life and your children's life in a way that is negative? Are you creating fear around things that really just need education? So, what do I tell my children? Do dangerous things carefully,
Mm.
right? I'm
Mhm.
not the one. You're not going to invite my kid to a pool party and I'm not going to be there. Not going to happen. We have a rule in the house. Number two, you're not going to invite my kid over for a sleepover and me say yes. Not going to happen. We don't do sleepovers. Okay.
Mhm.
But am I going to go hiking with my children so that they know how to do dangerous things carefully? So that when they're 20, 21 on their own in college or with friends and they're going hiking and they're like, I'm experiencing anxiety. What is that
Mhm.
a call to? Because a lot of times people say, I just have anxiety about this. Okay, but is that a call to something?
Mm.
Is that an invitation to stop and look at the situation? So I'm going hiking.
Mhm.
I'm anxious about this, this, and this.
Mhm.
Or I'm going hiking. Do I have my water? Do people know where I'm going? Do I have my phone? Do I have a first aid kit? Do I have food? Do I have my backpack? Am I dressed appropriately? All the things that I need to do in order to go and not have anxiety. Because a lot
Yes.
of times anxiety is saying, you're not prepared.
Right.
You're not thinking this through.
Mhm.
Stop. It's an invitation. Think this through, do your research, and then proceed.
Mhm.
That's how
Yes.
I feel about anxiety because
It's a
I do have a
preparation
tendency.
system.
It is a preparation system. Absolutely.
Mhm. So
Absolutely.
you have to think about it like this, right? It's a preparation system. It's a threat detection system.
Hmm.
You're supposed to prepare yourself to respond to something that matters, right? Like think about what you have had anxiety about in the last week or few days. We experience it. We do experience it on some level every day. We just everyone has a spectrum of the intensity of it, right? So you may have experienced it, but you're not having this full body, full brain shutdown or fight because you've prepared yourself for what could possibly be, right? Um, the preparation system, you might feel like your heart rate is going up. You might feel like, "Ugh," your shoulders are going up. Because what do we do? Like I'm even doing this right now. You're in the readiness place of getting ready to protect yourself or you're getting ready to protect the situation, right? So but that doesn't mean we have to stay like that or something is necessarily wrong. It just means we're uncertain. We don't like uncertainty that makes many of you feel uncomfortable, but doesn't necessarily mean danger. A little anxiety is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Like feeling a little bit of social anxiety can be a good thing. Prepare yourself for that conversation. And if you need a little hint with that, we have some podcasts that we've done in the past about asking
Yeah.
questions and being curious and learning how to go into a situation where you might feel a little anxious. Why? Why wouldn't you? And sometimes people are just faking it, you know? It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a
It is.
skill. It's a skill. You
You got
can
that
learn.
down. Yeah. Uh-huh.
What'd
Yeah.
you say?
You got that down.
I do. I
You
do.
do. You do
Mhm.
have that down, especially with neurodivergent people
Mhm.
who really struggle with impulsivity. When anxiety takes place, the stopping and listening to that is huge because we tend to be impulsive and try to kind of ignore that and push through it without really thinking through it. And that's a big one for me. When I started
Mm.
understanding that anxiety was an invitation to stop and analyze the situation,
Mm, love that.
that is when things changed for me when it came to anxiety.
Mhm.
Now, I have anxiety, I have a phobia of roaches. You guys know this. My husband last night was like, listen, there's going to be a meteor shower. It'd be great for you to take the children out at midnight. I've got to go to work the next morning, so I can't. Immediately, I thought, I'm risking my life taking them out to watch this meteor shower because I know the roaches, these stupid palmetto bugs, come at night.
Mm.
And I had to go, okay, Wendolyn, what are some things that you can do to prepare to not feel like you're jumping out of your skin because the roaches are out. I don't go out in the summertime at night. I don't know if you guys know that, but I don't. And so,
Unless you're with a protector.
unless I'm with a protector, I do. And in this case, it was my son.
Mhm.
And so we did go out, and what did I see? One meteor and a huge roach. I spent the night laying in bed going, what if it came in? What if it came in to get me? What if? And I had to bring myself down and go, Wendolyn, you're experiencing anxiety from a phobia. You're being a little irrational right now.
Mm.
And you can't take your children's experiences away because you have this anxiety. You
Mhm.
really do have to push through this.
Mhm.
And as Meredith said, so what's the worst thing that could happen if a roach is on you? Like, what is the worst thing that could happen
Mhm.
other than I would die of a heart attack? That at being
That is yet to
glory.
happen. That's so irrational. That's
I do have to think that way. I have to go, that has yet to happen. Like, that
yeah.
hasn't happened.
Mm-mm.
And so I do have to go back and say, Wendolyn, you're feeling this way because in childhood you had a huge roach on your shirt when you came out of the woods, and it was the size of a golf ball, plus it was the size of a tennis ball, and it was going to eat your face off,
It was
but
the
you did
size
protect
of a
yourself.
bowling
Of
ball.
a bowling ball. And then I did rip my shirt off at such a young age and ran through the woods in the neighborhood without a shirt on. And I did protect myself, so I could do that again. So that anxiety is a little
Mhm.
bit different. We're not talking about that in ways of that can't dictate your life. Right? It's the anxiety. I could allow it to dictate my life, and I
Mhm.
have. But we're talking about anxiety having a purpose, and that can even have a purpose because I can teach my children it's not worth you guys missing out, and it's not worth of me missing out on experiences because of my anxiety. When we
Mm.
went to go see fireworks, we were laying on a lawn in the freaking middle of a field, and I knew that there was cockroaches all around us. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to rob my children of this experience of seeing the fireworks because mom has
Mhm.
anxiety over cockroaches and that they're going to eat her face off. Like, I have to move past this.
Which has never
And
happened in the history of
it has
time.
never happened because I feel like, well, this is the thing. There's only two things that are going to survive a nuclear explosion. It's cockroaches and my mother. Those are the two things that will be roaming the earth if there's ever a nuclear explosion. Facts.
Ah.
Facts.
Carmen will
And
be leading
so
that army. She'll
Carmen
be
will be
leading
like,
it.
follow the leader. Vámonos. I've seen that woman smash a cockroach with her bare hand. There's nothing she's afraid of. So, yes, she
Mm-mm.
would be leading them. They'd be like, Master. She'd be like, Sí, follow me,
Mhm.
señoras and señores. So that's what would be happening. But that anxiety, too, I can't allow it to affect my children's life. I can't.
No. Yeah.
You have to know the
Feeling
difference.
yeah, if you think about, an oversensitive smoke detector, right?
Mm,
Like, okay, would I rather have a smoke detector that doesn't work or have a sensitive smoke detector, right? So, it's valuable because you want it to notice a house fire, but
mm.
it also notices when you leave a towel on the stove and it starts to smoke, but it also notices, this is a smaller thing, when you burn toast, right?
Yeah.
So the fire alarm goes off and you're like, okay, like I clearly know what that is because I'm standing in front of the toaster. It's burning, right? The fire alarm goes off and you're not home. That's an that's another level of anxiety. And what does that do? It pushes us into crisis mode. You're figuring it out, you know, that you're in hyper focus to control the situation.
Yeah.
But I'm not in hyper focus to control the situation when I know that I burnt toast. So
That's a great example.
does that help you out a little bit with your
And that
cockroach
really
phobia?
does.
It
That is so
does.
good.
How does that what perspective is that for you? Like, how does that help shape it?
I just think of myself with the fire alarm. I mean, I've set it off, and
Mhm.
it's on our
You know that
security
I have,
system.
so.
Listen, the fire department has come to my house over, I mean, me cooking broccoli. So that was, they're like, ma'am, I'm like, I'm sorry. Listen. So I
Mhm,
know this all too very
mhm.
well because I'm not paying attention to the smoke that is billowing towards the fire detector. And, but you're right. It's that moment of saying, why is this going off
Mhm,
inside of me?
mhm.
Is this something that needs to be addressed right now and it's an emergency? Or is there's some smoke, but it's controlled and it's not something that's dangerous. It's supposed to be happening.
Yeah, yeah. And let's look at the situation, like, does
Yeah.
it make sense for me to have this? Am I alert do I have this alert going on in my body because I see someone or when I'm walking through the forest when by myself in the dark, I hope that I'm a little bit like, you know,
Yeah.
I hope that's you. Even when it's light out and you're by yourself, like, and you're going on a hike, you just don't know. You have to recognize that that's a possibility. So, what do a lot of women do when they have to live a life like this? When they are a single person and they're they have pepper spray. They find ways to protect themselves if they're ever in that situation. So instead of going without any sort of protection, which would increase your anxiety even more, right? You you prepare. You know that it's
Yeah.
gonna you prepare. Now, I know that some of you say like, well, I still prepare for these situations. And it is because something happened before. And so, yeah, so you're a little more heightened. But is that stopping you from experiencing life? Are you just existing because you're living in that fear response? You're living in that fear space. Is there a way to talk to yourself, to create protection, to maybe have someone join you in situations while you are learning to feel more safe? But being still and being frozen for a long time is existing. It's not living.
Mm.
It might feel really safe. It might feel really comfortable. And you got to check that. That's that's not what keeps life moving.
Yeah. If you experience anxiety on a level where it is causing you to freeze, talk about these things with somebody who doesn't experience the same thing. Like
Mhm.
Meredith. Like Meredith doesn't experience that. So I can freely tell her these things. There's no judgment, but she can also give me perspective as I need to give her perspective about not being trafficked. But also, like my husband, we're driving down the road the other day and it was such a beautiful little drive. And I'm like, do you ever go by houses and think, is there someone locked in that basement, kidnapped? And my husband goes, never. I've
Never.
never thought that ever
Mm-mm.
in my life, Wendolyn.
No.
Then I'm like, wow, people actually do live outside of this anxiety of
Mhm.
not thinking along those lines. Again, anxiety can just be, hey, take a moment and be discerning. That's what anxiety could be saying to you. This is an
Mhm.
invitation. I need you to be discerning. Walking down a street, it's late at night. Sure, you can take that dark alley and down that street on the other side of that alley to get home 20 minutes faster. You could do that.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, you have this anxiety and you're being asked to have discernment. Yeah, it could cut some time down. But I also know
Yeah.
reality. I don't live in a perfect world, and I know what could happen if I took that chance. I'm not going to take it. Anxiety does have a role. I am the one to have to determine, Gwendolyn, what kind of anxiety are you experiencing? And are you feeding
Mhm.
it?
Mhm. What
And how are
level?
you feeding it? Right.
Mhm.
So, is it a type of an anxiety that's telling you to be discerning? Is it a type of anxiety that's just intrusive thoughts? What is this? Hey, real quick before we jump back in. If you're enjoying today's conversation, we'd love for you to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. And if your platform allows it, leaving a rating or review is one of the best ways you can support the podcast and help more people discover these conversations. And if someone came to mind while you're listening today, we'd love for you to share this episode with them. You never know when one conversation might help someone feel less alone. All right, let's jump back into today's conversation. Be safe, do dangerous things carefully, but also you can't control everything. And that's a big part of anxiety too, is control.
Yes. And again, there's a difference between being like having control or wanting or needing control and being controlling. So yeah, I do want control, and I do need to be in control of this situation. Someone's gotta someone's gotta lead here. Someone has to look at this situation and know how to get through it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are the controlling person because you're taking control of the situation. The controlling person is the one who is fearful for everybody. They need to live in comfort. So they will continue to put their comfort first by trying to control every situation, not for themselves, but for everybody else. That's a controlling person. There's always a spectrum, Wendolyn, of like, too much. We don't really want to be around those people. That's too much. And the person, like, not enough. Like, okay, Meredith, take control of the situation. And
Right.
with me, like, I can definitely do that. That's not a problem. Like, I I thrive in chaos. I don't mind it at all. I don't mind saying the thing in the room that everyone needs to say or doing the thing in the room that needs to happen in order for the chaos to calm down, to bring that together, right? That's actually how my anxiety works. Okay, like I can feel it in the room that everyone is heightened or they don't know what to do or like, but I will that's actually anxiety that's happening inside of me. Like, okay, like do something about it, but it's not a worry. It doesn't create fear or worry.
Mm,
That's how anxiety works well. Like, okay, you can do something about this. Take control. What can you do? I do the thing. A lot of times it works. If it doesn't, at least somebody's trying. I'm trying to continue to reframe what anxiety is and what it isn't and how it
yeah.
shows up.
When you're talking, what I'm hearing you say is to me, and other people are going to interpret it the way that they interpret it, is having the courage to challenge the anxiety.
Mm,
It's this, okay, what type of anxiety is it? And what do I do with that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Also, I think it can be taught. Like, where does it come from?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you know where the cockroach thing comes from. Not everybody can identify that. And that's where therapy is really great because if you have a good therapist, they can get you there. And when
Yeah.
you can identify something and make sense of it, Wendolyn, like it doesn't mean the fear necessarily goes away, but you can talk to yourself differently.
Yeah.
You have some sort of touchstone for it. Sometimes I tell my clients to name whatever that worry is or that fear or that anxiety, like give it a name because the anxiety might be in their how it's showing up is in their thoughts. Like what if this and what if that? And I say, okay, what kind of person out there or somebody in your life or someone you've seen on movies or read in a book that's that person that's like worry, worry, worry. Here are all the things you need to be concerned about. And let's just say it's like Edna, you know, like an old woman who's like, just concerned and worried about everything. We've all had one of those in our life, right? And I said, okay, give her a name, give anxiety a name. And when Edna shows up, You got to tell her, Edna, you got to go. I don't need you. You said it before. I've heard you. And remember the last time? Everything was okay. So giving your anxiety, giving your worry a personality sometimes just drops it into like, having that sense of humor, and it releases it and it takes it outside of your body. It externalizes, and you're having this conversation with something else that's trying to take over.
Yeah.
And Edna doesn't need to be there. She can calm down. Go
Yeah.
back to making your biscuits. Like, worry about someone else. Yep.
It's funny that you say that, Meredith. There's a movie called Luca, and it's an animated movie, and it's adorable. And anytime he feels, I think if he's afraid of something, because he's trying to get courage to do things. I think that's what it was, but he would say "Silenzio Bruno" because it was like inside of him telling him, it'd be like "Silenzio Bruno," and so that's what it reminds me of. And I actually have used that with my kids when we're scared. "Silenzio Bruno," So yeah,
Yes.
I love that. Hmm.
To make that situation lighter and just be like, okay, that's the way that we're going to just slow it down a little bit and assess the situation, and like, really, how much do we need to be involved with this? Right?
Yeah.
Like, those intrusive thoughts, they came from somewhere. Maybe they came from you, but a lot of times it's lies, you know?
Hmm.
So you might have a villain
Yeah.
and you might need to curse at it. You might be like, get the away from me. Like,
Yeah.
you're destroying, like, get away.
Hmm.
I'm done. I'm done with this. I've told you
Yeah.
before. I'm going to tell you again. You really have to be dramatic with it in some way, and take control over the personality. And this is very different, guys, than having multi-personality, disorder, or dissociative disorder. This is
Right.
not even a conversation about that. This is
Right.
the basic everyday, what a lot of people struggle with their, and I'm going to go like this. I don't know why I was going to like anxiety, because there's a certain generation out there that uses that as an excuse all the time. People
Hmm.
use that as excuses, but it's a younger generation these days.
Yeah.
And sometimes people use it as just an excuse to get out of doing things that are uncomfortable. They just don't really want to do it. Why? I don't understand it, Wendolyn. I don't understand how it's not worth it to work through something, to enjoy something new like that. I I, I don't get it. I don't understand how people don't want to push themselves through it, because the world is so great.
Right.
It's so boring to live in that way.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
And we have to ask ourselves the question. I like the perspective that you're coming from. The world is so great. Why are we allowing anxiety to hold us back from
Yeah.
experiencing it? And then there's the people who have gone through true trauma, real
Mhm.
trauma. Not
Mhm.
everybody has a trauma, right? Real trauma that look at it and say, the world isn't that great and it's scary. It's a scary
Yeah.
place. And I want to encourage those people to find a therapist, one that does EMDR like you do, Meredith.
Somatic therapist, brain spotting, IFS, which is internal family systems. This is what
Yes.
gets underneath that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to relive your trauma. There are ways to do it where you don't need to relive it. I have done EMDR or brain spotting just for taking a test in college, and they needed a certain grade in order to pass the class. And of course, there was a lot of anxiety around that. That makes sense. So one of the ways they prepared is to come and talk about it, trying to reduce, right? We work on desensitizing the way it shows up in your body so that you can actually control it with now the thoughts. Like this prefrontal cortex can make decisions for you, right? When you can get past being in that discomfort or that anxiety that you're experiencing and sit with it in a
Mm.
safe place, your body is not getting used to it. It's just like calming down, like, oh, okay, you got this. It isn't an unsafe situation. You're good. You know it's there. I know you're there. You don't need to do this job for me anymore. Thank you for showing up when I needed you. And now it is linked to that part of my brain where it's like, you know, but I don't have an unsafe person in my life anymore like that. But for some reason, it felt like that in my body. And now I can create a different association to it because I'm going to change the truth or the belief that came from that. It is every thought, every experience is supposed to go through the fear-based system in your brain. It's supposed to. Can you imagine if it didn't go to that first when something is burning?
Mm, yeah.
Like, can you imagine if it didn't go to that place first when someone approaches you with a weapon? It's supposed to. Let it come there and let it go through to this part of your brain, the reasoning part of your brain, where unfortunately doesn't fully develop until about 26, 27, 28. So if you are younger than that, your degree of anxiety might be a little bit higher
Yeah.
because you haven't fully lived the experiences enough to train your brain at its best form of development to make the decisions and to make sense. Please, if you have teenagers, if you have 20 somethings in your life, if you could just let them know that it's not always like this, or that you have someone or you are going to walk alongside them through an anxious situation, please do that because that is normal. You are still supposed to be teaching them how to move through life. I know we think an 18-year-old should know, a 10-year-old should know. Yes, there are some things that they need to know and it might translate, but they're still little bodies, right? They don't have the full experience of life like we do as adults.
I I think people should rewind that and listen to exactly what you're saying over and over again. Because what you're saying is it really is something that needs to be listened to over and over again because we have to remind ourselves. One way that you know
Yes.
that is, hey mom, I have a stomach ache every day. My stomach hurts every day.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe there's something more than just a physical thing that I need to look at.
I'm so glad you said that, Wendolyn, because it does show up physically in our stomach, our chest, right? Some people even have it in your throat, like where you're swallowing a lot, or you're like, I just can't get it out. Like what I want, I'm fearful about saying the thing that I really need to say. But like once you say it, a lot of
Mhm.
times it's a release. But the stomach thing is a big your gut. When they talk about your gut, it it's a thing. Like listen to your
Mhm.
gut.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many times
Yeah.
have you gone on a date and all of a sudden you have to poo? That's what happens. You're like, I'm nervous. Got to go to the bathroom. That's your body saying
Yeah.
you're uncomfortable about something. You're nervous
Mhm.
about something. That isn't a coincidence.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it's funny, but it's true.
Mhm.
Meredith, what advice would you have for people? I have someone very dear in my life who experienced something very traumatic. She
Mhm.
watched her husband pass away in front of her. Her children saw it.
Mm.
And so she did kind of live in anxiety. And if you didn't, I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Right? Like, if you're not experiencing anxiety after that, like something's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to people who walk alongside that person?
What we've been talking about so far, the idea of a proportionate amount of anxiety to a situation. So, unfortunately, experiencing a tragic incident, it is very proportionate. It makes a lot of sense for you to experience high anxiety. So, say that if I am there in that situation, or I know that it happens and I'm that friend that comes in, to for support, you're present with this person. And the way that somebody experiences what could be traumatic to you, your bodies are not experiencing it in the same way.
Yeah.
So being present means you take yourself out of it
Mm-hmm.
to be there with that person in that time. And oftentimes within crisis, even if it's not happening in that moment, they're still experiencing a crisis 2 weeks later, 2 years later. You join them, not trying to take away those feelings. Sometimes you don't ask them what they need. You just give them what you think that they need because they're just, they don't know. They
They
don't
can't
really
process it.
know.
Yeah.
There's not a
Mm-hmm.
rational brain happening, but you know them
Mm,
well enough, or you know a situation well enough where you've had to work with somebody else in this place, and water's always good, you know? Encouragement is always good. Like, "No, let's go for a walk. Let's just, come on, let's go for a walk. I don't have to
yeah.
talk to you. I don't have to, I don't have to bring you from here to here. In fact, if I interject in a heightened situation, think of a temper tantrum. What's happening in that situation is typically some sort of worry or fear. We don't know, right? Because they can't necessarily identify it, but in their little
Yeah.
bodies and brains, there's some sort of fear happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about stopping a temper tantrum, the reason why research shows that you don't do it immediately, listen, folks, immediately, is because they're working it out through their body, and they need to do that in order to calm themselves. A lot of times it's that fear response, like I was just talking about. The parent is there, the situation is safe. I'm going to make sure there's nothing in the way, like, all of that. I'm going to create a safe situation for them to work it out. If I stop that, what happens is it starts all over again, and it just continues to increase that response, that fight response in a temper tantrum. So if I do that with someone in crisis, an adult in crisis, and I come in and I stop the emotional process, or I stop the rational process, or it
Mm,
just heightens it, and it brings it to a level that it doesn't necessarily need to get to. So that's why being present and taking your stuff out of it and wanting them to feel better and wanting them to feel more comfortable, it doesn't make sense. It's really for you. And everyone you're really doing it in a good way. You're like, I want to bring comfort and
yeah,
nurturing.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the comfort and nurturing is the aftercare of what your body and brain go through.
Oh, aftercare. I love that.
You got to have that.
Mm-hmm.
When I do EMDR, when I'm doing brain spotting, there's a lot of stuff going on in the body. There's alert, alert, alert. It does increase, but you got to sit with it in a safe space, right? I'm sitting with it in a safe space, and it's a practice over time. It's a skill over time. When you've done it enough, you can do it on your own. But when you're just learning how to do this, because it's not human to do this, let's just say this. I hope this is what you're getting. It's more human to avoid. It's more human to make a decision based on what your fearful brain is telling you than what your rational brain will tell you.
Mm,
That is why we say assess. It's an alarm for an assessment. It's not an alarm for a decision. Does that make sense? Like,
are you
mm,
kidding me? I feel like I just learned a whole year's worth of like psychology 101. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. This is beautiful. And what you're saying previously, you were saying be available. When my dad died, you called me and said, I'm on my way
mm,
from Connecticut. I'm on my way to take care of your dog so you can go to North Carolina and have the funeral. I didn't ask for that. What you're saying is be available to
yeah.
those who are in crisis, those who are experiencing anxiety.
Hmm.
And I don't think there's a greater thing that you can do. You're
Hmm.
not a therapist. Well, you are. You are. But as a person in their life, You're not a therapist. You're not there to necessarily get them through that to a place where they're now, like you said, not living in avoidance. You're
Yeah.
just present. As just a civilian, you're present, you're available.
Yeah.
And the fact that you when you said our natural response is avoidance, I mean, that's a whole
Yeah.
podcast in itself right
Right.
there. And so we won't get into that, but how many of you guys have ever thought of that? Like, yeah, my natural response is avoidant. My natural response is, I don't care that you want to see a meteor shower. There's roaches. That's my
We
immediate
can just look at it
response.
from
We can look at
inside the
it.
house,
Listen. Yeah,
outside the window. Yeah.
absolutely. Your immediate response, it's almost like a survival thing. Like, I
Yeah.
have to survive, so I have to avoid, but that's not necessarily what has to be done. And that's why people who have really gone through trauma need someone like Meredith, who a therapist who does the brain spotting, who does all the somatic work, who does the EMDR. That stuff. I mean, I have sent somebody to Meredith before and they were like, this is crazy what we're doing. And then by the end of it, he was like, apparently crazy works. I'm like, yes, it does.
And let me encourage you guys that you may only need a few sessions of this. It depends on what level, again, the
Yeah.
proportionate level depends on how often the frequency of what you've experienced, that in the severity of it, right? But
Hmm.
sometimes it just might take a session or two. It depends on how prepared you are to want to move through it and get rid of it, and how safe you feel in your body. There's all different factors that determine how fast you can move through this, right?
Mm,
But for those of you who may have done therapy for a while, and then maybe it's a lot of talk therapy, maybe it's somatic therapy, you've but you feel sort of like talked out. You've analyzed, you've have the skills, even with communication skills with couples. You have the communication skills. You've gotten all of that. You've analyzed why things are the way they are. You've put some things into practice, but there's still a barrier. It's probably because your body is still living in fear of some sort, and it's not necessarily the person in front of you. It is something that you learned a long time ago, which many of us call attachment. I know that's like a whole nother thing, but we see a lot about attachment out there now. Like that seems to be a little bit more of like all over social media. So attachment is really talking about the safety also and the care and how we can move around in our relationships based on how much we trust the person that is supposed to show the most love to us, right? So that's a
yeah.
different degree of fear. That's a different degree of anxiety. And oftentimes that is so in us and so, just in there, that it still takes something like EMDR or brain spotting or somatic work or IFS to just get it all out, to change your association to having to be activated. Oh, Gwendolyn, there's so much that I want to say. You guys can hear how passionate I am about this, and this is why I do the work that I
I think we need to do another
do.
episode on this, Meredith, because I think what you're saying is fascinating and people need to hear this. They're not familiar with it.
No, and okay,
We're gonna.
we will, we will do a whole episode on the word trigger and
Ooh.
activation. Okay, what that is? Look at me. I'm like,
Yes, I'm very excited about this too, aren't you
I,
guys? You guys are excited.
Gwendolyn. How often do you hear me use the word triggered? Or that with my clients, I'm like, we don't use that word. We don't.
Mhm, mhm,
We use the word
mhm.
activation.
Yeah,
If you want to know more about that, then listen into one of our future episodes, because
yeah,
we're going to talk
yeah,
about that and how it changes your association to how you see the world and how you experience your fear-based system.
yeah. I have seen Meredith, with permission, of course, from her clients. I have seen her do EMDR with them and brain spotting with them. They bring up things they had no idea they were dealing with. Things that
Mhm.
happened years and years ago. They're like, I forgot all about that. It is pretty remarkable. Meredith is very good at what she does. Like, very good. I'm like, oh my gosh. And
Thank
some of the
you.
questions that you've said, I love how you always preface it. Some of these things are going to sound weird. Just roll with it and trust me. And they're like,
Yeah,
okay. And then I hear you say it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a little weird. And then it
very weird.
works. It works. I'm like, this is craziness.
Mhm.
How our bodies protect ourselves, our brain protect ourselves from being hurt, feeling anxious about things that we had no idea were deep down in there. It's just this feeling. It's coming out in our bodies. We had no idea really what activated that to begin with.
Mhm.
It's
Love
really
activated.
incredible.
Love that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not
Mhm,
using
mhm.
trigger. That is so trendy and
How
cool and
dare
popular to
you?
say trigger.
Listen, we are not minimizing trauma.
No.
Everyone has I know we say it like everyone has a trauma. We all have some sort of system overload that didn't make sense or doesn't make sense at the time, and we need to make sense of it one way or another. And that might
Yes.
be why it feels so heavy because I avoided looking at the situation and keeping myself safe afterwards. Maybe.
Yeah.
Again, all within the control that you have at the time, okay? I know that a lot of people out there, not a lot. I know people, no, let me say this. People who have experienced dog bites are some of the most anxious people that I've worked with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The way it creates a fear of dogs is fascinating.
Wow.
But why wouldn't someone feel trauma from that? Right? I've had a dog bite me. I've had it a couple times actually.
Well, my dog bit your vagina, so there's that.
Oh
You
my
walked
gosh.
into my house and she took a quick nip. So anyway, go ahead.
And yeah, what did I do? Every
Mhm.
time I came to the door, I waited and
Yeah.
I learned to protect myself, or I had
Yep.
you who put her
Mhm.
outside to make sure it doesn't
Yep.
happen again. But I didn't
She
have
was a
necessarily
dodo.
anxiety about
Mhm.
that. But did I respond a little bit of like, "Ugh,
Yes,
is
as you
Willow
should
there?
have.
Is
Yeah.
Willow there?" I still have it and she's been gone.
I know she passed away and Meredith's still like, "I can't walk into your house yet." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, you can." She's like,
I
"Oh, yeah,
do.
right."
I do. I do. I still protect myself a little bit when I walk through
Mhm.
the door.
Mhm.
Um, that beautiful creature.
That beautiful creature who just
Love
wanted a,
her.
a big old snip of people's vaginas and penises when they walked in.
She did.
She was
Oh,
going to get a snip. She was going to be like, well, who are you? Snippety snip. You know,
but she was doing her job. That's the thing.
she was
She was
doing her
doing her
job.
job. She was
I do
protecting.
think because she was a dodo, when you
She's
walked in the
yeah.
house, even though she knew you for so many years, she's like, oh, I'm seeing this person for the first time. There's
Mm.
something there. There was something there.
There
You knew it
was
looking into her eyes. You're like, oh,
yeah, bless her.
you know, you're like, something's there. She doesn't remember you, or she does.
She
And
does.
she's choosing not. She doesn't care. She just wants a good old snippety snip. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really good situation. Like that, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really good example, right?
Yeah.
Of that. And people who have experienced, unfortunately, more than that, or maybe it's even been on the surface, their activated response to that has kept them frozen when it comes to dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to do over time is not really desensitize the fear. We work through the rationality of the fear. It makes
Mm-hmm.
sense that you feel this way. It makes sense that you didn't feel prepared and you really didn't grow up with dogs or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And let's also make sense of the fact that that was a one off or
Mm.
that dogs can do that. And how do you prepare yourself and keep it safe, right? So that maybe that doesn't happen again. Doesn't necessarily mean it was your fault either for that
No.
happening. And let's just say this. If you have a traumatic experience, many times people try to rationalize this. What could I have done? It was my fault. It's
Mm.
not a lot of times. Like, it's really not. Like, there was no way maybe to prepare for it. Or, like, we just can't think of everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, now we know. You hear me say that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now we know.
Now we know.
Yep.
If we could just practice that, you know, well, now we know. I use it a
Yeah.
lot with kids. Like, well, now we know. We just,
Yeah.
we don't do that, or we bring this next time, or
We do it
we
differently.
stop
Yeah.
here. We just do it differently.
Hmm.
Exactly. So you can definitely prepare yourself to be around a dog. It doesn't matter the species, right? You have taught me that a lot. There's a way to prepare yourself for that. So, like I said, Wendolyn, there's so much I could say, and
Yeah, I
I
think we need to do an episode on this. What do you guys think? Because there's so much here. This is what Meredith does. Guys, you guys are like getting a glimpse of like what Meredith does, like what she's really good at. And I think we need to talk more about that. I think we should jump into our 1%. And then I think you guys should let us know. Yeah, tell us more about this. This is fascinating because it is. It's fast to the nating. We are. I'm
Yeah, fast to
fascinated.
the nating. I love that.
Hmm.
Fast to the nating. I like
Fast to
that.
the nating. I want to talk about our 1% because this is such a huge topic. And one of the things that I maybe would encourage for a 1%, when you're feeling anxiety, just ask yourself the question, is this an invitation for me to stop and pay attention?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to be discerning in this moment? Is that why? Am I not prepared for what's in front of me? Is that why? Or is this something that I need to work through? What kind of
Yeah.
anxiety am I experiencing?
What kind?
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it can just be skills too, learning skills, and that's the
Mm,
way to prepare for it.
yeah.
So it doesn't always have to be like going through an emotional experience, or doing the somatic work or bilateral work, or EMDR and all. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that. Sometimes it is just building skills, gathering information, and then seeing where to go from there. Reading an
Yeah.
article, listening to a podcast.
Yeah. Listening to a podcast. Listen, it's like a free therapy sesh in every episode.
My 1%, and it's just very simple. Name your anxiety. Is it Edna? Is it Bob?
Mm,
Give it a name, give it a personality, and just, start telling it what's up.
yeah. Is
That's
it
my
Bruno?
suggestion.
Yeah.
Bruno.
Silencio Bruno. And you know what I'm going to do right now, though? I'm also going to do this because I've been talking about this, about the concept of discernment and the courage to actually practice discernment when we have anxiety about something. So I'm
Yeah.
going to do a little bit of a plug, Meredith, before we
Okay.
leave.
All right.
I am in the process of editing my book.
Oh, get it in there, girl.
Get it
Yes.
in there. It's a children's book that parents do with their children's. Yeah, look at this.
I love
Guys,
it.
in a couple months, it's going to be out. And it's scenarios talking about discernment with your children,
Mm.
about
Hmm.
being appropriate. So I'm just going to plug that.
Well, yes, because it goes along with this of like, you are
It does.
supposed to have a little bit of anxiety. You are supposed to
Absolutely.
be fearful, and you have your, you have your tentacles out.
Yeah.
Head in a swivel.
Yeah.
Ask
And
questions.
Meredith has threatened me about getting this
I
out.
have.
So
Yeah, I have used fear. I have.
she has used fear.
Mhm.
She's like, you better get this out because you're going to be in trouble. And I'm like, "Nah." So I did it. And I'm so
I mean, it's
thankful.
also known as encouragement to some people, but for
Well,
you, it's sort of translated in the way that you see things. So whatever
that
works.
is the truth. She knew she had to be threatening. You will do this tonight. I was like, "Ugh," and I did it. So we're in the
Mhm,
process of
mhm.
editing it and getting it out there. So guys, thank you for being with us. We are going to do an episode on this because I love hearing. We just need to do an episode of you talking to me about this, and people can put their headphones on and be like, oh, it's Meredith Streep. It's Meryl Streep voice. Lay down in a hammock and just listen. That's what we're going to do.
Yes, I have
Mm-hmm.
had requests. I really have, to just like
Absolutely.
and I have done guided imagery or for some of my clients, and sometimes that's just what we do in a session. Like, they actually are just like on the couch, they're sitting in the chair, eyes closed, or they're at home on their, and that's just what we do because that's what they need. So it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite parts of
We need to
my
do that.
work.
As a matter of fact, I think on social media, that's what Meredith needs to just put out is just close your eyes and then go through the process. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on Simply 1%. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about, something practical to try, or maybe just the reminder that you're not alone in what you're walking through. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to support the podcast, one of the best ways you can help is by following or subscribing wherever you listen. And if your podcast platform allows it, leaving a rating or a review really does help more people discover these conversations. If someone came to mind while you were listening, we'd love for you to share this episode with them. You never know how one conversation can make someone feel seen. Remember, you don't have to change everything today. Just focus on the next 1%. We'll see you next time.